let me go to the two senators who are running this, Senator Lindsey Graham from South Carolina and Senator Whitehouse from the great state of Rhode Island, both of you. Senator Graham, today, let me ask you first, what did you learn today that you didn't know?
Well, I learned a couple of things. One, I thought General Clapper and Yates were excellent witnesses. I thought she did the right thing by going to the White House General Counsel, knowing what she did about the Flynn Russian ambassador conversation, saying you got a problem with Flynn because it could be compromised. She did absolutely the right thing. From what I can tell, the White House General Counsel, Mr. McCann, took it seriously. 18 days later, the guy is fired. What did I learn? I learned that apparently there was an unmasking of a Trump campaign operative and maybe a member of Congress during the 2016 election. That's the first time I've ever heard of that. But the bottom line here is I thought Sally Yates did the right thing in terms of her role in all this.
Senator Whitehouse, the 18 days to me seems exorbitant. It seems long. It seems long after you've learned that he has deceived the Vice President of the United States and let the Vice President of the United States, and I guess you have to factor into it. I don't know who knew this and when, but there was something sort of squirrely, my term, about General Michael Flynn's relationship with Turkey, even that sort of weird meeting. I don't know if you know about it, but former CIA Director Woolsey said that he walked in on some meeting where Flynn, in October, I think it was trying to figure out some way to help Turkey get a dissident out of the United States, bypassing extradition. So there were lots of really sort of weird things. So 18 days seems long to me. How about to you?
Yeah, well, one of the things we learned today was that there was a second meeting with White House counsel. So those two meetings on two successive days allowed then Acting Attorney General Yates to really hammer home to the White House that this was an ongoing national security hazard to the United States of America. They had a national security advisor who was in a position where he could be compromised by the Russians at a moment's notice, and as far as anybody knew, had already been compromised by the Russians. So when you think of what took place over those opening days of those two meetings between her and the White House counsel, the fact that then 18 days goes by, during which he participates actively in all sorts of really delicate national security issues where Russia's deeply invested, including a phone call between the president and Vladimir Putin. And then it's only at the end of that that they finally got around to dismissing the man. Something is not right in Denmark.
I guess, Senator Graham, I would have, 18 days is, I think probably maybe this advantage of 2020 hindsight is to say it's because of the, well, because it's national security, I would have put him on ice for 24 hours and parked him while we sorted it out. Or, maybe not fired him, but put him on ice while we figured that out.
That might have been the better way. But let me tell you this. He was fired. She did the right thing. She's incredibly credible. I thought Flynn did compromise himself. We can argue about how long it took. But there's another aspect of this story that bothers me, if nobody else. Somebody during this time period took classified information obtained from incidental collection and leaked it to the Washington Post. You may like the outcome in this particular case, but that process is bad for democracy. You cannot allow that to happen. You can't have political people, if a political person was involved, to take intelligence, to leak it to the press, to get an outcome they like. I want to know who did that.
How do we reconcile that, Senator Whitehouse? Because that raises an interesting point, because that is against the law to leak classified information. Had it not been leaked, which is not a justification for violating the law, we would have a national security advisor, General Flynn, who is, as in Sally Yates, former Acting Attorney General Yates' words, someone who is vulnerable to blackmail by Russians. So how do you reconcile all that?
Well, we know that the Trump White House is very responsive to what's being said about it in the media. But you've got to believe that even though it took them 18 days, at some point they would have reacted to what Sally Yates had told them. And they would have taken this national security risk seriously. So the idea that Michael Flynn would still be our national security advisor, I think, doesn't stand on much of a foundation. But how much longer they would have dragged it out is an open question.
That's very
and a good
fair.
one.
All right, well, let me challenge you on that. Let me challenge you. Go ahead, Senator.
From a Republican point of view, I found Ms. Yates to be incredibly credible. I thought what she did in terms of handling this, she didn't go to the press, she went to the White House. I think Mr. McCann seemed to take it seriously, and we'll see what happens here.
All right, well then let me just say two things to be a devil's advocate to both of you.
Okay.
Is that former Attorney General Yates, is that the last time she spoke up, she got fired when she spoke up about something. Now, some people don't like the way she did that about the travel ban, that there were better ways to do it than how she did. But so she got fired when she did that. But here's the other thing. President Trump today tweeting that about the Obama administration gave Flynn the highest security clearance ever. So you say how they acted quickly in 18 days. There is some form of defense, at least this morning, of General Flynn by laying the blame on the Obama administration. Yes or no?
But that didn't stand up in the hearing today. We heard very clearly from General Clapper that for these White House positions, there is a far higher level of scrutiny than the general rotation of, you know, the 5-year review. And apparently that was not done. We don't know that, but the White House cannot factually say that the pre-existing clearance for General Flynn was adequate for this National Security Advisor position. That is just not true, evidently.
Can I just build on that? Number one, what General Flynn did that's got us all upset was after he was fired by the Obama administration. So did the Obama administration have reason to withdraw his security clearance while he was out campaigning for President Trump? I can't say that they had enough evidence. As to vetting General Flynn, General Kelly said that he went through a very long process with the White House where they asked about foreign contacts, did you represent any foreign governments? Obviously, that didn't work when it came to General Flynn in the White House. You've got to hold the White House accountable, in my view, for not properly vetting General Flynn's contact with Turkey and Russia. I think that's fair to say.
Well, then, Senator Graham, wouldn't it be better, Senator Graham, that if instead of today, the President Trump laying the blame on the Obama administration in a tweet by saying basically that they gave him the clearance, which now we know there's a higher clearance that he should have had subsequently. If instead the president tweeted today, please watch the hearing. We need to hear what Acting Attorney General, former Acting Attorney General Yates said. And, you know, and once in a while we get lied to in security clearances. That would have been a little better. Would you agree?
Well, it might have been better, but there are certain people on the left and the right are not going to do that. And Senator Whitehouse and I have tried to put together a hearing that sort of gets to what did the Russians actually do? How can we stop them in the future? What kind of price should they pay? And I'm very interested in how our system works when it comes to gathering intelligence on political figures and Americans in general through incidental surveillance and how unmasking works. I think that's potentially abused. So, you know, I'm proud of what we did today, and we'll keep plugging at it.
The president may have a penchant for misdirection, but I think Senator Graham's hearings have gone right down the middle of the road factually and have been very well supported the whole way through, and we intend to continue doing that.
All right, so where we are is that as we've had Yates speak, we've heard from her, and we've heard from the former CIA director. We don't know who did the leaking. So is that something you two will be pursuing and hearing? Will there be more hearings on that?
Well, I don't know. I got to talk to Senator Whitehouse. What I want to know is, how does unmasking work? What's the population that can request unmasking? Do they share the information? How is the information distributed in our system? I want to understand that. In terms of where we go next with Russia, I want to know, was there a warrant on Carter Page? I mean, Carter Page, according to President Trump, was a campaign advisor. The press has reported that a FISA warrant was issued, that somebody believed there was probable cause about his connections to Russia. Were those connections just him as an individual, or were they connections to him as a campaign operative? I want to know that. And I still don't know the answer to that.
One of the decisions that Senator Graham and I made early on in this was to try to stay away from too much classified material, because classified material means you can't talk about it any longer. And part of our purpose here is what Director Clapper referred to in the hearings, that this was a really useful hearing at bringing the American people along to understand what has taken place and what is at risk for taking place in future elections. So, you know, we're going to be careful, I believe, about trying to get too much classified information. It can be like flypaper. Once you're stuck to it, it's hard to maneuver after you've been glued to the classified information and can no longer speak freely.
All right, one big overarching question. What are we going to do about Russia? Let me go first to you, Senator Whitehouse. What are we going to do about Russia on this? What do you want to see?
Well, I know that Senator Graham is going to have some strong ideas as to what to do on offense. So I will say that on defense, we need to do things like clean up our incorporation laws. This is something I feel very strongly about, so that Russians and other folks can't hide behind shell corporations with nobody able to find them. We're becoming, in the United States of America, the last haven for criminals who want to hide behind shell corporations as countries around the world, including the EU, clean up their act. So we have some specific things that we can do to defend American democracy by making sure that the public sees what's going on and who is behind the dark operations of people who want to influence politics.
On offense.
All right, Senator Graham, we got 30 seconds, so go ahead on offense.
Sanction the hell out of Putin and his inner circle. We haven't done enough in the energy sector and their personal finances. Hit them hard, pass my bill that will hit Putin and his inner circle hard for trying to undermine our election and undermine democracy throughout the world. Make him pay a price.
There, you got your 30 seconds left.
All right, I just want to say my one piece is that I want to say what a pleasure it is to see a Republican and a Democrat working together on this so well. It's a good message to us all. Thank you both.
I've got a good chairman.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.